Welcome to HB Tuner's live training session part 5 on our Pontiac Firebird. In the last few videos, we've learned how to go and work with our VCM scanner, learning how to work with our VCM editor software, making our changes for the mass airflow, speed density, and idle control operation. Now we're ready to take a look at the cold start and warm up on day 2 of our live training video here. And then we're also going to be looking at setting up and working with our idle effective area. That's going to be one of the last details we have for the idle control. Also going then and taking a look at setting up our fuel injection timing. That's something we haven't talked about in our GM Gen 3 training course, so we're going to be introducing that in this video. I have a nice Excel spreadsheet. It's going to be speeding up the tuning process and populating your fuel injection timing tables. We're going to have a lot to cover, so let's jump into our live training session so we can get started. Welcome back to our live training session here with our Pontiac Firebird. In the last video, we finished up the calibration process on the chassis dyno. We looked at doing the mass airflow tuning. We looked at doing the speed density volumetric efficiency tuning. We put our dynamic blend point up. We did a pull to make sure everything was going to be consistent, and that's where we're at right now. So we're on day 2, so I've let the vehicle sit overnight. We're ready to check the cold starting, making sure that it fires up and it runs properly. We want to see when it fires off what the air fuel is going to do. For the first maybe 30 seconds, minute, 2 minutes of running, it's not going to go into closed loop. It's going to run at a richer air fuel. We want to make sure that air fuel is going to be appropriate and that we're following along with what the commanded air fuel is going to be. So we can look at our EQ ratio when we fire off the vehicle, and we can determine if we need to go in and alter some tables. We're going to go over that here in the first portion of the video. We're also going to take a look at refining our idle control a bit further. So in the last few videos, I believe it was in the third video, we set up all of our base running airflow table. We used a histogram to create a channel for us. We populated some of the values into that. We're going to check it now on a colder temperature. We were at the warmer temperatures then. And then we're also going to be looking at the idle effective area table. The idle effective area table is going to be a little bit a confusing topic for a lot of people. I'm going to be showing you how to create a custom histogram in the video here so that we can have corrected values that we can just pop right back into the table and correct our IAC steps versus effective area and just understand what the effective area table represents. There's been a few questions in the forum about that, so I want to take care of any kind of discrepancies or confusion we have going on. That's something we didn't get to cover in the actual Gen 3 training course. Now, in addition to all of this, we're going to take a further look at some of the idle control tables once the engine comes up to operating temperature, the throttle follower, the throttle cracker, just making sure those function and work. Also taking a look at turning the AC on and making sure the idle is going to be stable. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at the fuel injection timing. We haven't talked about that in the Gen 3 course either. There's been some questions on that. I have developed an Excel spreadsheet that we can simply plug in some values from what we're working with in the file that we have, and based on the cam that we're running on our cam card, some of the opening and closing valve events, we can plug those in, and I have a nice corrected value that you can put right in to your file, flash it. It'll get you a really good starting point for working with the fuel injection timing. We're going to talk about what that represents and what that means. So there's a lot of things to cover here in this video. Again, just everything off the chassis dyno, just all the last details, kind of the finishing things to make sure that the calibration is right on your Gen 3 vehicle. So let's talk about the cold starting and operation in open loop first. That's going to be one of the things that we haven't gotten to look at yet. When we fired it off in the I think it was the third video, when we fired it off when we were doing our mass airflow tune, we weren't concerned about what the air fuel was doing. We needed to get it up to operating temperature just so we could evaluate looking at calibrating the mass airflow and or the speed density table, depending on what kind of mode we're going to be in. When we're up to operating temperature, we're going to be in closed loop if we allow the closed loop feature to work, and it's going to run at the stoichiometric target. But when it fires off for the first 20, 30 seconds, 60 seconds or more, it'll be in open loop. It's not running in closed loop, and it's going to be running a richer commanded target air fuel or commanded lambda amount, and that's to be able to offset any of the lost torque at idle on a cold start, also to get the engine operating a little bit smoother when it's coming up to operating temperature. So by running a little bit richer fuel mixture, we're going to find that the engine's going to produce a little bit more torque that's going to help on a cold start stabilize the idle a little bit. Again, it also will allow it to just run more stable in general. We have what's known as a wall wetting effect, where the fuel isn't going to atomize and get into the engine as efficiently. We're going to find it sticks to the intake tracks, the intake valves, and we have to go and inject a little bit more fuel to overcome the wall wetting effect so that the fuel is going to get into the engine and run properly. So we're going to offset that, command a richer mixture. So the problem we're going to have here is that we've installed a larger cam, and that's going to be throwing off our open loop base table that we're going to be referencing when we're firing off from a cold start. Now, when I was firing it off before, in one of the previous videos, I noticed that the command at lambda was something like 0.78 or 0.8 lambda. That was relatively rich. That's in the low 12, high 11 air fuel. We don't want to be that rich. We want to be in probably the 13 air fuel range so that it has a little bit extra fuel that it needs, but it's not going to be running excessively rich. So let's jump in and talk about this table real quick. So we're going to go from our general into our fuel, and then from our general here into open loop base. This is going to be the EQ ratio open loop table. This is where we command what we want our EQ ratio to be, or that lambda amount, or the air fuel, depending on what kind of units or scales you're working with. So I purposely set, when we were building our base map, from 140 and above, I put all the values to 1.0. These values are going to be offset on the stock calibration, and we'll find that they could go here and run richer than that. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.